Hello Internet, it is I, Maria, but you can call me Veritas. Fun fact about me, I used to be a massive Pokémon fan. Yeah, that's right, the autistic woman once had a Pokémon hyperfixation.
How original!
And when I still had this hyperfixation on Pokémon, I would also watch a lot of Pokémon YouTubers, and one of those YouTubers I watched was CandyEvie, who was my favorite of them when I was a kid. I found her videos to be entertaining and, okay, gonna be honest, the big reason why she was my favorite was because I used to have a crush on her when I was like 11 years old. And even though I've grown out of this crush almost a decade ago, I'm still incredibly biased towards CandyEvie and get incredibly defensive whenever anyone criticizes her. Such as with this video, which was uploaded by a YouTuber named galeforce3192, who has been making videos for 15 fucking years, yet somehow has only just under 2,000 subscribers. That is pathetic. To show you how pathetic it is, YouTuber PackGod, who has been making videos for 3 years, has 5 million subscribers. Seriously, Galeforce? You really want to be less successful than fucking PackGod of all YouTubers? Are you okay living with that? Are you okay with me yapping on about this? You're probably not okay with that, so I'll stop. Back on topic, I will be criticizing this video. Furthermore, I will also criticize aspects of Galeforce's channel that I don't like, so let's get into it. Alright, what the fuck is this? Why the hell did you need this fuck-ass intro? Literally, what is the point of having this intro telling us information about your video that you literally already told us in your cold open? Couldn't you just use a normal intro that just has your name on it like any other YouTuber would have? For example, here's an intro from one of my childhood commentary YouTubers, Memulus. See that, Galeforce? That's how you do an intro, cause if Memulus was doing that long-ass intro shit you were doing, then my 13-year-old ass would have clicked off his videos and never looked back.
Have you ever looked at a Pokemon and thought that its type just doesn't make sense? Well, I have many times. And so, today's video is going to be a countdown of the top 10 Pokemon whose types appear to make no sense at first glance.
At first glance? The title of your video implies that it's about Pokemon whose types make no sense at all. If a Pokemon's type makes no sense until you think about it and realize how it works later on, then it doesn't make no sense anymore, does it?
Lol, that's super pedantic. Have you ever considered that CandyEvie was doing this video unscripted, or is even just not that good at articulating her thoughts? I mean, speaking as someone who's pretty shit at articulating my own thoughts, I have a bad habit of saying stuff in my videos that I don't actually intend to say, and that's in spite of my videos being scripted. If we're assuming that CandyEvie's videos are unscripted and/or she has problems with expressing her true thoughts, well then it makes sense for her to say stuff that she probably didn't mean to say, or even fumble over her words.
Number 10 we have Yanmega. In general, I like Yanmega, but not as much as Yanma. It's on this list not because I feel that its current typing doesn't make sense as such.
Yet another statement of yours that comes into conflict with the title of your video. If you're not saying that Yanmega's typing makes no sense, then it shouldn't be on this list.
Okay, I hate to pull the literally neurodivergent and a minor card, but Galeforce, you do realize that CandyEvie is neurodivergent and, at the time of this video, a minor, right? Neurodivergent minors aren't exactly a group known for being great orators. They're actually quite prone to expressing themselves poorly due to being younger, less experienced, and less developed in communication. Just saying, I think that should be noted.
But it might suit another type a little bit more. In Yanmega's case, this typing would be Bug Dragon. The fact that Yanma and Yanmega are based on dragonflies is enough for this to work. Yanma suits bug flying much more than it would suit Bug Dragon, so I only feel this way about Yanmega. Yanmega's current typing still makes sense, which is why it's at the bottom of this list, but I still believe that the potential for a Bug Dragon type was very much a missed opportunity here.
First off, dragonflies are not dragons.
Yeah, no shit.
Even with that in mind, Yanmega isn't really based on modern dragonflies. You want to see mons that are based on modern dragonflies and their relatives of antlions, look at Vibrava and Flygon. Now, I imagine many of the people watching have seen my commentary on True Green 7's list of top 10 mistyped Pokemon, and I talked about Vibrava and Flygon's design in that. If you haven't seen that commentary, the link is in the description below. Now back to Yanmega. Yanmega, both in concept and in name, is based on the Meganeura insects. Meganeura is a genus of extinct insects that were around during the time of the Carboniferous geologic period, which started around 359 million years ago and ended around 299 million years ago. Yes, the Meganeura insects are related to our modern-day dragonflies, but they are not the same thing.
Yeah, but that's basically close enough. After all, it's not like the 7-year-olds playing Pokemon are gonna know the difference anyway, so what's in the harm of a Dragon-type Yanmega?
At number 9 we have Helioptile and Heliolisk. We all know that these two are part electric type, but what could the other type be? I thought that the typing of these two was completely obvious, but I was wrong. I first came across Helioptile in Route 9, a route that you would typically expect to be inhabited by ground types. In fact, the other two Pokemon that can be encountered in this route, Hippopotas and Sandile, are ground types. Helioptile's Pokédex entry in X also states that it makes its home in deserts. Sounds like a ground type, right? No! Electric normal. This just doesn't make sense to me.
You know what other Pokemon make their homes in deserts? The Cacnea line, the Darumaka line, Maractus, and Sigilyph. You know what all these Pokemon have in common? None of them are ground or rock type.
Except those Pokemon you listed have no reason to be ground type, unlike Helioptile and Heliolisk. Helioptile and Heliolisk are pretty obviously based on reptiles that make their homes in the desert, so it would make sense for them to be ground type. Now, the 3 cactus Pokemon are based on, well, cacti, which are plants in the desert, so I'll give you that one, Galeforce. However, Darumaka and Darmanitan are based on Darumidals, which aren't desert-related in any way whatsoever, and Sigilyph, from what I can tell, is based on indigenous North and South American culture, due to its resemblance to stuff like totem poles and the Nazca lines, and last time I checked, most of this that we indigenous folk people lived on ain't no desert.
Number 7 is Inkay. Inkay is easily one of my favorite New Kalos Pokemon. At first glance, I thought that it was a water type. I mean, it's based on a squid, so it's easy to see why I thought that. Inkay is actually a psychic dark type. Its psychic tag is understandable, considering the hypnotic lights on its body, but outside of its move pool, it's hard to see why it's a dark type. On the other hand, Malamar, Inkay's evolution, seems to represent both of these types very well within its design, but I still can't get past the fact that Inkay looks like it would suit a water typing so well.
First off, Malamar still looks like a squid. It just happens to be an upside-down squid. Hence why you had to hold the 3DS upside down for Inkay to evolve once it reaches level 30.
Galeforce, I don't think Eevee was saying that Malamar didn't look like a squid, like, at all. She was just saying that Malamar represented the psychic dark typing a lot better than Inkay.
Second, you must not be familiar with Call of Cthulhu or H.P. Lovecraft stories. If you know about Cthulhu, you wouldn't be complaining about the Inkay line psychic dark typing at all. For those who might not know, Cthulhu is one of the Great Old Ones, a group of cosmic horror entities in H.P. Lovecraft stories. It's also the namesake of the Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game based on said stories. In those stories, Cthulhu and the other Great Old Ones are said to make anyone who so much as looks at them completely insane due to the Great Old One's very existence being completely outside humanity's realm of comprehension. It might just be a theory since there's no direct evidence for this, but given Cthulhu's appearance, particularly its facial tentacles, it's safe to say that the Inkay line is partially based on Cthulhu, and their designs may be based on Cthulhu if Cthulhu is more squid-like. If you imagine the Inkay line as being partially based on the cosmic horrors that drive people insane, the psychic dark typing is a lot more apt for this pair of squids.
Except that only makes sense for Malamar and not Inkay. Like, Malamar looks evil, you know? He looks like a devilish schemer just waiting to ruin your day with whatever evil ideas he's come up with. But Inkay doesn't look evil or malicious in the slightest. Look at him. He's a cute little squid guy. He doesn't deserve the dark typing at all.
This clip summarizes quite nicely Einstein's theory of what gravity is and how planets, planetoids, and large stars displace space.
It wasn't until Einstein came along and told us that gravity is when large masses sitting in space.
Oh my god, you're using a freaking Armored Skeptic video as a credible source? Look, I was originally going to point out how this made the video horribly dated, but I'm pretty sure this man had a few screws loose even back in 2016, so yeah, don't use Armored Skeptic videos to back up your claims, holy shit.
Number 4 is Mega Gyarados. When I first saw Mega Gyarados, I thought that for sure its typing would be Water Dragon, but I was wrong. Mega Gyarados' typing is actually Water Dark. The Dark type seems to completely come out of nowhere.
Except that if you look at Gyarados' moveset, there are more dark moves in its move pool than there are dragon moves, so Mega Gyarados being part dark works in game mechanics and in design. Just look at it!
I'm looking at it. It looks like a dragon to me.
Gyarados, along with Charizard, has always come under scrutiny for being part flying type instead of part dragon type.
What's this? I went over this in my True Green commission? Okay, what exactly did you say in your True Green commission about Gyarados? You mind telling us what you said in your fucking commission in this video instead of just gesturing that it exists? It would be nice of you if you actually made an actual fucking point about Gyarados, you know?
Furthermore, Water Dark actually works pretty well, especially if you know what the Dark type is called in Japanese. In the Japanese versions of the game, the Dark type is called the Evil type. I'd say Mega Gyarados looks pretty evil.
And I say it looks like a dragon, so yeah, why can't it be a dragon type, Galeforce?
But these two are worlds away from looking like dragons.
I probably should have brought this part up earlier, but I should say that putting only part of an evolutionary line for an entry really annoys me. Either put an entire evolutionary line in for an entry, or just one mon. Otherwise it just looks like a friggin' cop-out putting a tie-in since you can't choose one over the other.
Lol, that's pretty damn stupid. Why should it matter if Eevee puts in only part of an evolutionary line? If the two Pokemon share similar qualities not shared by the third one, then it really shouldn't be that big of a deal.
They're based on slugs and snails, so a bug or
Slugs
even a
and
poison
snails
typing
are
would
not
suit them a little bit
bugs.
better.
You're right, Galeforce. Slugs and snails aren't bugs. But you are aware that spiders are also not bugs, and oh, would you look at that? Seriously, Galeforce, this is Pokemon we're talking about. This is the same franchise that made two Pokemon based on sea lilies fucking plants. This franchise isn't exactly known for its scientifically accurate understanding of animal biology. Actually, you know what? Since I brought up Lileep and Cradily, I might as well ask something from you, Galeforce. Since you insist on criticizing CandyEvie for thinking that certain types don't make sense for certain Pokemon, allow me to give you my own thoughts on how Lileep and Cradyly's typings make no sense, cause I would just love for you to try and prove me wrong. Lileep and Cradily are rock grass types. Now, I get the rock type since they're fossil Pokemon, which are almost always rock types anyway, but the grass typing is just fucking stupid. For those who don't know, Lileep and Cradily are based on crinoids, which are known colloquially as sea lilies. Sea lilies are underwater organisms that, should be noted, are not plants but are instead animals. In fact, sea lilies are what is known as echinoderms, which is a phylum that also happens to include starfish. Therefore, making Lileep and Cradily grass types is functionally no different than if Staryu and Starmie were grass types. It's so obvious that Lileep and Cradily should be water types for self-evident reasons. So there you go, Galeforce. There's a Pokemon typing that makes no sense. I'd love to see you debunk me.
I would genuinely be unable to guess Lucario's secondary type if I didn't already know what it was. I understand that it was a good idea to give this Pokemon a unique type combination of Fighting Steel, especially given the abundance of pure fighting types. It makes Lucario shine in a way that others don't, but at the very least, it could have been incorporated into its design much better. The only hint towards its steel typing is its metallic spikes on its paws. 2 little spikes.
First of all, you missed a spot. Second of all, you said there wasn't anything to hint at its secondary type at all. Yet here you are, admitting that there's something in its design to indicate its secondary type, thus contradicting what you just said a little bit ago. A small hint is not the same as no hint at all.
Galeforce, that is a distinction without a difference. If I was working for Game Freak and I created a water grass type Pokemon that resembled a fish and had no visual sign of being a grass type outside of a tiny leaf on one of its fins, would that tiny little leaf justify a grass typing? No. That's because the leaf in question would be completely inadequate at being enough at conveying the grass typing of that hypothetical fish Pokemon, and you know it, Galeforce.
The video, Top 10 Pokemon Whose Types Make No Sense, is somehow my most viewed video at over 600,000 views. Which is just crazy, especially seeing as this was one of my very first trivia style videos, and it certainly is not my best. But while I can't redo that video, I've been wanting to make a follow-up video for quite some time.
The fact that she says it's not her best and calls this a follow-up yet doesn't seem to address any real flaws with that top 10 video says to me that she stands by what she said in that top 10 video.
That's not how that works, Galeforce. Just because someone doesn't point out each and every flaw in a video they made, that doesn't mean they stand by the video. If someone says they don't like their video, then that should be it. They shouldn't be required to write an essay Chicago style in 12-point Times New Roman with double spacing and 1-inch margins when just saying they don't like it is all that is needed.
Number 3. Azurill. The lowest stage of the Azumarill line, Azurill was introduced as a baby Pokemon a generation after its evolutions. Marill and Azumarill at the time were pure water types, later being changed to Water Fairy in Generation 6. Azurill looks pretty similar to its evolutions, right? So it would be safe to assume that it would share their typing. Upon its debut, Azurill is a pure normal type. What? It looks so similar to its evolutions. What's so different about it that it requires a different typing?
It's a baby. It needs time to age before it can really fit into its surroundings. How is that so hard to understand?
Pichu, Elekid, Magami, and various other miscellaneous Pokemon are also baby Pokemon but are not normal types, so yeah, this point literally means nothing.
Number 4. The entire Tynamo line. This line, of course, heavily draws inspiration from electric eels. Electros' Pokedex entry states that it climbs out of the ocean, suggesting that it makes its habitat there. As well as Chargestone Cave, Tynamo and Electric can also be found in Seaside Cave, which would suggest an aquatic habitat. I'm pretty much indifferent to the types of these Pokemon though. Even if a partial water typing would make more sense seeing as they're based on eels, I can still understand why they are pure electric type.
You can understand why they're pure electric? Then why did you put them on your list?
Because they're eels. Eels are fish. Fish live in the water. This should be self-evident, Miss Galeforce.
Number 7. Persian. While Persian's current type does sort of make sense, I can definitely see a typing of normal dark, or even just a pure dark type working for it. Doesn't it look really menacing? It looks like it would fit in really well as a dark type. Plus, it would be interesting to see how it would work competitively too. Persian learns loads of dark type moves upon level up, so it would give it a ton more coverage.
First of all, refer back to what I said about the Flabébé line's grass moves. Second of all, refer back to what I said about the dark type being called the evil type in Japanese. Yeah, cats tend to be stereotyped as being mean, but mean does not equate to evil.
Except cats are also frequently depicted as being evil throughout art and writing, on top of them being depicted as mean. I mean, just off the top of my head, you got Lucifer from Cinderella trying to devour all the mice, Courage the Cowardly Dog had cats as part of its rogues gallery, and there's the fact that cats are often depicted as being the pets of villainous characters. Hell, Persian itself evolves from Meowth, that's right, so yeah, you're just full of shit, Galeforce.
Partial dark typing would really suit it.
A better type doesn't make its current type make no sense? Wow, that's really cool, Galeforce. Hey, remember this portion from the beginning of CandyEvie's video?
The Pokemon featured on this list are here because their official types don't seem to suit them very well, or there are other types that I think would suit them more.
Other types that would suit them more? Wow, that explains a lot.
Number 8. Weezing, Muk, and Garbodor.
Three-way tie from 3 different evolutionary lines. Way to give off an even bigger cop-out entry than Goomy and Sliggoo being in the same entry in the last video.
Galeforce, you're stupid for thinking this is a cop-out. These 3 Pokemon all share very similar qualities to each other. I really don't see the problem.
But considering what they're based on, I can think of additional typings that would suit them really well. For Weezing it would be Poison Flying, Muk Poison Water, and Garbodor Poison Ground.
Except the whole point of them being based on different types of pollution is that they're invading the environment, not that they've been part of the environment from the start, so them being pure poison makes perfect sense.
Galeforce, that's a non sequitur. How on earth do you hear what CandyEvie says and think that what you just said in any way debunks what she said? How does those 3 Pokemon being pollution have anything to do with CandyEvie's point?
Number 9. Trapinch Vibrava.
Oh god, not again!
No. I'm not watching some other whole-ass fucking video. God damn it, Galeforce, can you not be a lazy fuck and just explain to your audience why CandyEvie is wrong? I shouldn't have to go to an entire new video. I clicked on this video. I expect to watch this video, not another video.
Lapras is a typing of Water Ice. The water part of its typing doesn't even need to be questioned, but I just don't understand why it's an ice type. It doesn't really look like an ice type. It's not found in any cold areas with the exception of Icefall Cave, which was 2 generations after its initial debut, and its origin doesn't even back this up either.
This tells me that you didn't even bother looking at the origin section of its Bulbapedia page. If you did, you would know that 2 possible factors in its design are blue whales and humpback whales, both of which can be found in Arctic and Antarctic waters, which are really fucking cold.
Bad argument. First, I highly doubt Lapras is based on whales. There are at least 3 or so other marine animals that Lapras looks like more than whales, for one. Second, this argument you made that blue whales and humpback whales being found in cold waters is a good justification for Lapras being an ice type is incredibly flimsy. While those two animals can be found in the Arctic and Antarctic waters, you seem to have forgotten that blue whales and humpback whales are cosmopolitan, as in, their population is distributed around the world, not just limited to the Arctic and Antarctic waters, so it wouldn't make sense for Lapras to be an ice type if it were based on those animals which don't exclusively live in cold waters. So yeah, get dunked on, Galeforce. Your video sucks. But I'm not done yet. If you guys remember earlier, I said I was going to criticize more than just this video. Well, here's that other criticism. There's two things that I want to criticize Galeforce for, and that's the thumbnails and titles of her videos. Regarding thumbnails, you can see that Galeforce goes for the art of just straight up not using any custom thumbnails at all. Yeah, I think you all can see the problem here. Thumbnails are pretty much a necessity for content creation, so not having them is incredibly dumb. The thing is, how should you go about making thumbnails? Well, that's what I'm gonna tell you. When it comes to making thumbnails, I believe that there are two major principles thumbnails should abide by. Those principles are be simple and be representative. What do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about simplicity first. Why is simplicity so important in thumbnails? Well, to understand that, I think we should look at album covers and film posters first. If I were to ask you what are the most iconic and famous album covers, chances are you would have probably thought of these ones. And as for the most iconic and famous movie posters, it probably would have been these ones. One thing you'll notice about all of them is that they are very simple in their design, conveying the nature of their work through clever symbolism via an icon rather than just having a bunch of crap all over everything. This is something I had previously criticized Emma's World's thumbnails since those ones were just filled with random junk. As far as I'm concerned, a good thumbnail, like a good album cover or movie poster, should be able to convey the meaning of the work it's representing through a single striking image. Of course, that's only one of the two guidelines for thumbnails. Even if you aren't going to follow this one guideline about thumbnails being simple, at the very least you have to follow this guideline. The other, most important guideline for thumbnails is that they have to be representative of the content of the video. The thumbnail is the gateway to your world, so whatever style you use in your videos, you should use it in your thumbnails. It makes sense after all. If you put more effort into making a thumbnail than you did for your video, then it can come off as jarring to your audience, which you want to avoid. But of course, that's simply my take on thumbnails. If you want a second opinion on the subject of thumbnails that's also more in-depth, I highly recommend watching Emblemon's video on the subject. Finally, it's time to talk about the titles. Galeforce, why the fuck do you put the word commentary in the titles of your commentaries? There is literally no reason for you to do that. I think your audience is smart enough to tell the video if they're watching as a commentary or not. They don't need to be spoon-fed pointless information. Hopefully, you'll take my criticism next time you make a new video. Anyway, since we're at the end of the video now, it's shoutout time. And today's shoutout is a bit of a Chekhov's gun, Memulus. More specifically, Golden Age Memulus circa 2017. Holy shit guys, I fucking loved watching Golden Age Memulus when I was younger. Like, gonna be honest, if you weren't watching 2017 Memulus as a teenager, then you're just a fucking chump, my guy. I've been rewatching some of his old videos from back in the day out of nostalgia, and I'm surprised with how most of them hold up even after almost a decade. I recommend watching him just to get a glimpse of this wonderful yet bygone era of YouTube commentary. But before I finally go, I want to talk about one more important thing. The important thing being how this video you're watching is the first video I've ever made where I used a microphone, specifically this ZealSound microphone that you're currently looking at. That's right, before then I didn't have a microphone. I would just talk into a voice recorder and pray that the audio came out halfway decent. Now, since this is my first video with a microphone, my audio isn't as good as it could be since I've never used one before. So if any of you have any advice on how I can do audio stuff better, then I'd be more than happy to hear from you. Anyway, that's all for today, and good night.